You're listening to Scheduling Sin with me, Snowmill.
Good morning. Hope you had a great evening. This might sound a bit strange, but I just wondered how you'd feel about Mr. coming down and fucking your brains out.
I have my spouse's blessing to go get my brains fucked out. That's cool.
Hello, listeners. When we were in the UK, we finally met in person a lovely couple called Mr. and Miss Foxy. Miss Foxy is one of our blog contributors. They're an experienced lifestyle couple and shared with us that, like us, they're also interested in expanding their dynamics by adding solo play. We were lucky to catch up with Mr. Foxy, who shared their experience with us. There's a lot to learn here and what went well and what didn't. Let's listen in. Let's start at the beginning with this.
The beginning.
Yeah.
So,
Let's start at the very beginning.
in the before times.
The before times. We talk about the before lifestyle times.
So we just did our
Gosh,
last
that long
episode
ago.
on expanding our dynamic and adding solo play.
Right.
And you guys kind of did this a little bit too before us.
Paving
Oh,
the
yeah.
way. Thanks for that.
Yeah, right. I mean, really,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
gave
you've
us
got
the
to-
idea.
you've
So
got to pen and paper
bravo.
handy and take notes.
Yeah, we are.
These are the holes not to fall into.
Right.
But these are the holes to fall into.
Yeah. Pick your holes carefully.
Yeah, that's a good life lesson, really.
So how did you guys, well, first of all, how did you decide to start doing any kind of solo play?
Right. Okay. This is fun and interesting. It's funny. Yeah. Again, you were right. This is going to be amusing and funny and stuff. So right. Let's cast your minds back.
To the before time.
Right.
Um,
We have to give
so-
one of the sound effects.
It's always a good time to introduce Scooby Doo to anything, isn't it? Like, so we, for the most part, let's say for the last year to 2 years on our evolving journey from when we started out and were from being, well, certainly in my dear Miss Fox's case, from a very scared, frightened newbie to dipping toes and starting off on the soft swing path and gradually building up over time. And we've always this has always been a case of, we're going to do this together. This is a shared experience. I'm there to hold a hand. And to kind of put it in context, as we'd explained to you before, I'd been on the scene previously. So I'm supposed to be this, Zen ninja swinging guru, and sort of allowing and assisting and aiding the beautiful Miss Foxy through this new joyful adventure. And we kind of did that for a period of time and built up into the full swap scenario and so on and so forth. We then, towards the end of last year, met with a couple who were probably one of those kind of nirvana couples, where all four completely got on the same wavelength. Mm-hmm. Everybody liked kind of each other, and there was no kind of
so rare.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's always like somebody likes the other one more than the other one likes the other one.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, we'll do this. That's kind of cool. But we found this couple, and we played with them a couple of times. We met them at a club. We'd been chatting to them a while prior to meeting the club to kind of build up a bit of rapport. Mm-hmm. We met at the club, hit it off beautifully, to the extent that we kind of commandeered one of the side beds that you will now be familiar with in the beautiful Liberty Elite. And we kind of commandeered that. We stayed on there for like 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
It's like, nobody else is getting on here. This is ours. You're just going to have to move along.
Yeah.
We're here. And so that was kind of pretty cool. And then we thought, this is great. We set up we'd had this group chat, and we were sort of saying to each other, okay, so what now? And Miss Foxy and I were chatting on the way home, and like really weirdly out of the blue, she kind of said, so we talked about maybe meeting this couple at a hotel, and she said, so, with this couple, how would you feel about separate room swapping?
So that was
It was
Kitty's
like-
idea.
Yeah, it's all her fault.
It's all her fault.
her-
Okay.
It was Miss
Yeah.
Fox's idea. Yeah, okay.
in a beautiful way. But this is like really bizarre because obviously up to this point, I've been kind of leading her along, and is everything okay? You know, we're doing this at the safe speed, and how do you feel?
Well, how did you initially feel about like that dynamic switch? You know,
Well, of course,
yeah,
as soon as she asked that question,
yeah.
I did that sideways look and went, "No, this is a trap, isn't it? This is a trap."
I've created a monster.
How do you feel about separate room swap? I'm like, you're just waiting for me to say, yeah, that's cool, and then say, why do you want to do that?
It's a trap.
So I'm looking at her going, is that a real question? Why do you want to know that? Well, I just thought it'd be kind of cool, you know. And so I went, well, yeah, I guess that could be fun. And then she kind of went, how would you feel if we made that an overnight? And I'm like, is this another trick question?
Had you ever done things like that in the past?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So this is all
nothing.
new. Okay.
Like, we'd only ever played same room.
I guess I meant in your swinging past.
In my
Younger year.
in my past, I had done separate room. My dynamic in my previous relation had been very, very, very different. Our relationship was very different. So I had kind of played solo myself previously. But within this relationship and our dynamic, this was completely these were like our hard nose.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, but it's like, you know, we all kind of just suddenly thought, this kind of works really well. We all get on, and this is pretty hot, and it'd be all kind of fun. And when we got home, it sort of was brought up in the chat that we had, and they went, wow, that's really weird, because we were kind of wondering the same thing. We were going to ask you how you felt about that.
What was
again, it was kind of like, oh, this is all kind of serendipitous.
So aside from the you know, it's a trap kind of feeling, what was your initial reaction when she said to you, let's try an overnight thing? What went through your mind first?
To be honest, I think it was a pretty exciting prospect. I think because as a group of four people, we got on really well, and it was, you know, like I say, when you suddenly find that kind of nirvana couple, things feel easier. It didn't seem as big
risky,
a deal.
Sure.
It wasn't the case of, well, this is going to be tricky because you don't like them as much as I like them. You know, it was kind of, everybody was on the same page. So it was like, oh, this could be kind of fun. This would be interesting. So, and you know, it didn't at that point. All of this, it didn't cause any ructions. The fact that it had previously been a hard no kind of didn't really matter in the moment because it was like just everything kind of felt right. You know, nobody was pushing an agenda. It just kind of evolved. It appeared, and you know, when the words came out, nobody's head fell off. So that's always a good indication. But we had quite a while to wait, I think, because with the other couple, they had an awful lot of life commitments, which I think you're fairly familiar with.
Yeah. A little bit.
But they've got like 3 kids, 2 businesses, yada, yada, yada. So we were kind of like going, okay, so this is really cool. When are we going to do this? And it was like, check the diary.
7 months from next Thursday.
Yeah, right.
It was like, I think this was November, early November, and we settled on the date of December the 27th. You know, because it was like between Christmas, we got Christmas out the way, you got family out the way, and there's that dead space.
Right.
You know,
right.
and it's like, right, we could, great, we'll do that. So we kind of lined that up, and we had like this 4 or 5 week build up, which was kind of insane. And it was fine. You know, we showed up, we did the meet, we met at the hotel. It was kind of like, it was interesting because we did, we were in one room, they were in the other. We'd got there earlier than they had. They were kind of getting ready. And then just before dinner, we all came out and met on the landing. It was interesting. We had these 2 rooms on this one landing in an annex building, so there was nobody else there anyway. So we kind of all came out onto the shared landing. The girls kind of swapped their overnight bags into the opposite room, and then we went off to dinner together at the hotel, but with each other's partner.
Right.
As of 4, but kind of with each other's partners. So we went in, so the people in the hotel kind of assumed that our not partners were our partners. And we sat on a table of 4, had dinner, we're chatting, laughing, and then went back to our respective rooms. And then that was pretty much it until breakfast. Originally, the plan was we would meet back at breakfast, but at separate tables, as in, with each other's couples at completely separate tables. So you kind of looking over going, I really want to ask you some questions, but I can't because we're at different tables.
So let me ask you about this part. So part of our conversation about shifting our dynamic to adding solo play adds a certain element of what you're talking about here with it kind of transitions a little bit from just a sexual experience to adding a dating experience, right? Because, in the scenario you just talked about, you are with, the other guy's wife and vice versa. And you guys you're kind of having a date in full view of your partner. But there's that date element to it, right? So this is kind of, for our journey, this is kind of where we're coming from, because up until recently, it's been a very sexual thing for us.
It's very physical.
It's very physical.
There's not the level of emotional intimacy involved.
Because that kind of feels safe, doesn't it? It's
does.
Like, hey, it's just sex.
It's just sex.
Exactly.
Right, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And in the very beginning, we, I think almost all newbies, now that I've talked to a lot of newbies, have said things like, we don't even want to know their names. Like, we don't want to make friends with people.
Right.
We just want to, purely, very arm's length. Right. So we're
like if they could wear a mask or a balaclava, that would be even better.
Exactly. If you could just be a body, right?
Be a hole. Pick your holes carefully.
and God, it feels awful to objectify people in that way, but that's kind of how we started.
Well, but I think that's what we thought it was.
That's what we thought it was.
Coming in not knowing.
Right. So now we're coming into this section where we're talking about adding solo play. And I don't know if you heard the last episode, but part of the reason we're interested in doing that is I am learning about myself, that I am much more demisexual than I thought.
Right.
I kind of require a connection with a person before it works for me to play with them. Now, Mrs. Snow is not that same way. She's a little bit different, but for me, I kind of need that. And so
this is like Miss Foxy. That's how she sees it, and I'm very much like Mrs. Snow.
Yeah. So what we're coming to here is we're kind of looking at me going out with another woman on a date, similar to what you're talking about here, where I've been kind of figuring it out for myself is where do you blur that line between this is just sex, this is an activity, right? Well, now I'm kind of having an emotional relationship with another person to a certain degree.
You're requiring that, yeah.
Right? So when you guys are at dinner together on opposite tables within full view of each other, what was that like? What was going through your mind about the conversation that Mrs. Foxy might be having with her guy? Were you distracted? What was that like?
At dinner, it was fine because all 4 of us were at the same table.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So we could hear the comment. The idea was at breakfast it was going to be different. But we didn't get that opportunity because at dinner they said, do you want to book for breakfast? And would you like breakfast in bed?
Ah, okay.
And the girls kind of went, oh, breakfast in bed, that would be really cool. So we ended up losing that opportunity.
I see.
Of sitting on different tables, and we ended up having, it was kind of cool. We had breakfast brought in on a big silver platter, but we didn't get the opportunity to do that observation at a distance after the fact. But I think because we were doing this simultaneously, it was kind of easier. It was a shared experience. Now, just to kind of take you a step further forward, we ended up, that was kind of still couples play, but separated. So we ended up sort of New Year's Eve, and we went back to the club, and a couple who we knew, we'd met them before, never played with them. They were at the same event, staying at the same hotel, and we'd spent time chatting to them at the club. And then after the event, we'd gone back to the hotel, slept, and then woke up on New Year's Day in the morning. And Miss Foxy kind of picked up her phone and had a look, and there was a message, in our swinging app. And she kind of suddenly was trying to wake me up, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. I've got this message. I'm like, what? So she went, look. And she passed me the phone. It had this message, and it was from the female of the couple. And she basically just sort of said, good morning. Hope you had a great evening. This might sound a bit strange, but I just wondered how you'd feel about Mr. coming down and fucking your brains out. So she's like going
the
like,
messages that we receive in this context are they're just fun. Like, where else can you have you wake up to a message that says that and you're like, okay, instead of like,
so some other woman just going, hey, I'm going to send you my man. And
I'm going to send you my man. He's going to fuck your brains out. Like, that's cool. Like,
and she's
for anyone who might be listening, I'm open to such a message in either direction.
Yeah, volunteers, please forward to.
Yeah, I volunteer.
But she was like, this was like a moment. She's like, I could tell, she's like, oh, I kind of want to do this, but I don't want to do it because that's not what we do. And what are you going to do? And
right.
I can't possibly do this.
Can I? Yeah, right.
It's like, no. She's going, no. I'll just tell him no. And I went, whoa. So we had a very rapid conversation, and I said, look, hey, that's what we're here for. This is kind of, we're here to have fun. It's an opportunity that's cropped up. As you know, the Delicious Debs always sort of says, you should try everything once. If you don't like it, try it a second time. If you still don't like it, then maybe don't do it.
Maybe don't do it.
So it was like, hey, we knew this couple. It wasn't like something completely random. And
right.
It was like, look, just do it. I mean, and I'll explain for why in a second. But so she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'll go and have breakfast, which is still kind of weird. I'm like, yeah, just tell them, yeah. So, but of course, because it was like getting on and we had like checkout in a couple of hours, and it's suddenly she's saying to them, yeah, send him down. And I'm thinking, crap, I'm still in bed. I literally, like 5 minutes, jumped out of bed, washed, toothbrush, throw some clothes on, out the door, and just disappeared off and went and had breakfast on my own. And, waiting for the message from her to say, all done. You can come back.
All done.
And I'm spent.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of went ahead.
So you're sitting down there at breakfast. This is going on upstairs.
Yeah.
What's going through your head at that time? What was that like for you? I can imagine what it was like for her, and that's kind of fun to do. But what was it like for you?
I'll be honest, it was very strange because it was completely out with our experience.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised at how, I don't know, calm I was. I wasn't feeling overly nervous, or I wasn't feeling excited. It's not really part of our dynamic.
I feel like I would feel
I did
similar.
wonder whether or not it would cause me some concern, but I was just trying to focus on my breakfast,
That big old sausage.
Have a distraction.
But
can I have another sausage?
It's interesting because, when I think about him going on a date or playing with this other female and again, I'm positive that the majority of why I feel this way is because we know her and we have a relationship with both of them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just some random person. But I feel like I would feel similar. Like, I'm not nervous or anxious or maybe a little excited for you, but I feel like I would feel almost I feel like I would feel very indifferent. Kind of like what you're describing. I don't.
You and me are like twins.
What
Well,
are you
and
doing
it
later?
is. I see
But
where
it's
this is
like,
going.
it's the fact that we knew the couple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we were comfortable, and we've played with unicorns before, and she's fairly okay with me playing with them because we've gotten to know them and we're
Yeah.
comfortable around them,
Yeah.
and there doesn't seem to be anything threatening.
Well, there's no threatening. That's what it is. There's no threat there.
So, but then this is where things then progress. So I'm kept, and then woke up on New Year's Day in the morning, and Miss Foxy kind of picked up her phone and had a look, and there was a message, in our swinging app. And she kind of suddenly was trying to wake me up, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. I've got this message. I'm like, what? So she went, look. And she passed me the phone. It had this message, and it was from the female of the couple. And she basically just sort of said, good morning. Hope you had a great evening. This might sound a bit strange, but I just wondered how you'd feel about Mr. coming down and fucking your brains out. So she's like going
the
like,
messages that we receive in this context are they're just fun. Like, where else can you have you wake up to a message that says that and you're like, okay, instead of like,
so some other woman just going, hey, I'm going to send you my man. And
I'm going to send you my man. He's going to fuck your brains out. Like, that's cool. Like,
and she's
for anyone who might be listening, I'm open to such a message in either direction.
Yeah, volunteers, please forward to.
Yeah, I volunteer.
But she was like, this was like a moment. She's like, I could tell, she's like, oh, I kind of want to do this, but I don't want to do it because that's not what we do. And what are you going to do? And
right.
I can't possibly do this.
Can I? Yeah, right.
It's like, no. She's going, no. I'll just tell him no. And I went, whoa. So we had a very rapid conversation, and I said, look, hey, that's what we're here for. This is kind of, we're here to have fun. It's an opportunity that's cropped up. As you know, the Delicious Debs always sort of says, you should try everything once. If you don't like it, try it a second time. If you still don't like it, then maybe don't do it.
Maybe don't do it.
So it was like, hey, we knew this couple. It wasn't like something completely random. And
right.
It was like, look, just do it. I mean, and I'll explain for why in a second. But so she said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'll go and have breakfast, which is still kind of weird. I'm like, yeah, just tell them yeah. So, but of course, because it was like getting on and we had like checkout in a couple of hours, and it's suddenly she's saying to them, yeah, send him down. And I'm thinking, crap, I'm still in bed. I literally, like 5 minutes, jumped out of bed, washed, toothbrush, throw some clothes on, out the door, and just disappeared off and went at breakfast on my own. And, waiting for the message from her to say, all done. You can come
all
back.
Done.
All done.
And I'm spent.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of went ahead.
So you're sitting down there at breakfast. This is going on upstairs.
Yeah.
What's going through your head at that time? What was that like for you? I can imagine what it was like for her, and that's kind of fun to do. But what was it like for you?
I'll be honest, it was very strange because it was completely out with our experience.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised at how, I don't know, calm I was. I wasn't feeling overly nervous, or I wasn't feeling excited. It's not really part of our dynamic.
I feel like I would feel
I did
similar.
wonder whether or not it would cause me some concern, but I was just trying to focus on my breakfast,
That big old sausage.
Have a distraction.
But
can I have another sausage?
Right. It's interesting because, when I think about him going on a date or playing with this other female and again, I'm positive that the majority of why I feel this way is because we know her and we have a relationship with both of them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just some random person. But I feel like I would feel similar. Like, I'm not nervous or anxious or maybe a little excited for you, but I feel like I would feel almost I feel like I would feel very indifferent. Kind of like what you're describing. I don't.
You and me are like twins.
What
Well,
are you
and
doing
it
later?
is. I see
But
where
it's
this is
like,
going.
it's the fact that we knew the couple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we were comfortable, and we've played with unicorns before, and she's fairly okay with me playing with them because we've gotten to know them and we're
Yeah.
comfortable around them,
Yeah.
and there doesn't seem to be anything threatening.
Well, there's no threatening. That's what it is. There's no threat there.
So, but then this is where things then progress. So I'm giving this is all the build up.
Sure.
After that, when we're driving home, we kind of then said, okay, so we've done the hotel thing, with the couple. We've done this, single play. You've played with another guy, and a lot of this had come about because we'd had some not very good experiences towards the latter part of the previous year, where we'd met with a couple, and for whatever reason, the guys just didn't cut the mustard. They were either generally fairly lackluster, some just simply couldn't get it up, or they weren't actually very good at what they did. And the upshot of all of this was she was getting the raw end of the deal.
Yeah.
She'd end up having to watch me play with another woman and really not getting a lot out of her encounter.
I feel like that's exactly kind of what, similarly, like you were kind of watching me having a good time and enjoying myself when you weren't having that same experience.
Yeah, and it wasn't, and it was for different reasons. It wasn't because the women were lackluster or anything like that.
But just,
I guess more to do with the fact that I just didn't have that connection with them yet.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question though, and I want to pause you for a second on the deal where you went to have breakfast and she played after. One thing I wanted to ask you about that was, so I wrote this story that's on our blog. It's a kind of a hot wifing story, and she read it, and I asked her what she thought about it. And one of the things that she said that caught her, that appealed to her, right, was in the story, the woman's name is Jeanette, goes upstairs with the guy while the other guy stays at the hotel bar.
Yeah.
And in the story, when they walk into the room and they're like getting things going, she has this moment where she has this kind of like pause, like a guilty pause, and then continues on with it. And I'm curious if after the fact with all of this, what was Miss Foxy's, what did she, I mean, other than it was great sex or whatever, like what did she think of it?
I think it was a case of, I mean, there was immense gratitude because she, she knows that it was a big thing for me to be okay with her doing that. So the fact that she'd been with a guy, had a good experience, and that I'd been okay with it was kind of a real big thing for her. It wasn't a case of, wow, I feel really guilty. It's like like I mentioned earlier on, I used that idea about nobody's head falling off. I mean, that's something that she uses a lot, is like, going through this process, she was worried about, this is a bad thing and you should feel guilty and it's very naughty. And it's like, I've done these things and I woke up in the morning and my head didn't fall off. That was, so it's like, hey, this is not that bad. The world hasn't exploded. Just because I've done something that up till now I've been told I shouldn't be doing. So she, she didn't feel bad as a result of it having happened. She was immensely grateful that I'd been okay with the idea of her doing that and saying, you go ahead, enjoy yourself.
Right.
It was just, she was like, I can't tell you how much I feel gratitude towards you. I thank you for allowing me to do this. So she enjoyed the experience. She was immensely grateful to me for having said, yes, just go for it. So there wasn't any kind of...
It takes some of that guilt away. Like massive. You're giving permission, right?
Yeah,
you're saying,
100%.
Go have fun, enjoy yourself. And I can appreciate from that perspective of like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like, I have my spouse's blessing to go get my brains fucked out. That's cool.
Well, yeah, exactly. And do you think this was a major step for her in her lifestyle journey?
Very much so.
Yeah.
it was certainly one of. And if I can, I mean, I'm more than happy for you to drag us back to some of these if you've got anything you want to ask. But this is leading up to the conversation afterwards where we were, okay, so we've had these experiences. What does this mean for us in 2024? What is our swinging experience going to be going to this next year? And that's when we kind of suddenly said, look, how do you feel about us doing some separate play? So this wasn't planned. It came out of the blue. It had obviously worked. I hadn't felt bad about it. She hadn't felt bad about it. And so we kind of said, look, is this something that we want to do? Because I think when you get into this, you think we've got to do this as a couple, because if we don't, we're doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
We're now kind of comfortable enough, having done it for a while, to know that if we play with somebody else, it isn't because there's anything wrong with our relationship.
Right. We're not replacing anything. Yeah.
So you develop this increasing sense of confidence and comfort about who you are and what you're doing. So we then decide, okay, well, we'll look at this single play dynamic, and each of us set up a single profile on the swinging app that we use. Now, this is where things started to change a little bit, because, and I'm sure it's probably the same over there. On my account, on my profile, I set it all up, and promptly was welcomed with, crickets. Tumbleweed and crickets. Whereas by contrast,
right,
Mrs. Account was like, it was, dick pic central.
Yeah,
it was, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say thousands of people descending on her profile with hundreds of messages. I mean, some of them are beyond belief. There's a real broad spectrum of just grossness through to some quite pleasant individuals.
That probably is an episode of itself.
We've had a few of those.
We've had some
ourselves.
pretty crazy intro messages. Like, it's pretty insane.
So, and for confidence wise for her, and this was one of the reasons we wanted to do it, or I kind of felt okay with doing it, was to help enhance her confidence. Her confidence had been knocked because of the experience she'd had with some of the guys in the couples that we'd met. Plus, as you'd said, to bring it back onto what you were saying, with the couple that we'd met in the hotel, there'd been this 4 or 5 week build up where we had been inboxing one another, firstly as a group and then individually. And she'd really got off on that connection, that flirtation, that connection, and kind of realized that made the whole experience, took it to another level.
Yeah.
So she kind of wanted to bring that into this single guy element. So she was getting messages coming in, and she's like answering to loads of them. Now, a lot of single women, due to their experience, just kind of lock everything down, or they'll only engage with a few people, or the barriers are up from the get-go, because this was all kind of fresh and new and exciting.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah.
I'll take it all.
More guys.
Bring me the dicks.
She's messaging.
Line them up.
Really hot and steamy, and she's sending pictures and getting pictures back. And it's kind of cool. Yeah. And she's, loving the attention, which, hey, why wouldn't you? Of course you would. But I think, from my perspective, I think, there was a degree of naivety there. It was just, the gates were wide open, and bring the Trojan horse in, everything. Just.
And how did you feel about that? I mean, were you put off by that?
Massively. Yeah. This is where I think the wheels started falling off, because I'm over here living in, Antarctica. There's just, and it's like, and she's like, yeah. Well, you know that the app's not very good. Hey, why don't you sign up? You just sign up onto Tinder. You might be able to find somebody locally on Tinder.
Oh, now she's
So
giving you pity advice.
No.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden, I've got an account on Tinder. I've got an account on UK Cupid. I've got an account on like Facebook dating. So now I'm getting absolutely nowhere on about 7 different platforms.
Oh,
Well, and I think that the other piece of that, and I will say, speaking to my vanilla friends that are on dating sites, obviously they're not into lifestyle. They're not kind of into dating people that are married, right? They're trying to find their forever person. So I think when they see, like on Tinder or those other apps, that when they see, oh, I'm married, but my wife says we could, like they're immediately like, no.
I think a lot of women don't even believe it.
Yeah, they don't. You're right. They probably don't. But
they see on a profile
it's such a different,
married with permission, and they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I was looking for the women that don't care.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But you know what I mean?
They're
like,
more
but
fun.
you're fishing in the wrong pond. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Yeah. But even then, I think on Facebook dating, they incorporate ethical non-monogamy and poly. Yeah. There are a lot of people on there that are in that, and you can tick the boxes.
Interesting.
So they do cater for that on there, but it still made no difference.
So I could see how that would be a big confidence shot.
Yeah,
it would be for me.
So we've gone
be what I expect, honestly.
I'm the guy who's done all the stuff and's got all the experience.
Yeah.
Works and real comfortable with her being, well, I'm a bit nervous about this and I don't feel very good. And suddenly, bang, it went the other way around. My confidence just plummeted.
Yeah.
And hers was going through the roof.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's like going off at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I'm going, wait for me. And I totally get it. I mean, she hates me telling this story because after we kind of discussed all this, she's like, but I sound like a real horrible person.
She's
I'm like,
definitely
no, absolutely not.
No, definitely not. I don't see her that way at all.
But she kind of got concerned that, because suddenly she was getting all this attention and kind of
and enjoying it.
It kind of felt like she forgot about me.
Yeah.
She absolutely didn't, but
right. But I think it's understanding the context of it all. You know what I mean? Like, I think from an outsider not understanding all the dynamics, I could see how it would see that way. But I'm willing to bet that most people that are engaged in the lifestyle and understanding what it's all about don't think that.
No.
Yeah.
But so off the back of that, we did arrange, and I mean, I tell a little bit of a white lie there. I got 1 or 2 hits. So I managed to. Things started off. We both kind of found 2 people that we got on with. Mm-hmm. So we arranged a couple of meets and such like.
Individual meets.
Individual.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine were kind of like put back in the distance. They were later dates. So at the same time as she was looking to meet some of these single guys, she kind of said, hey, why don't you meet and play with some of the unicorns that we've met? Mm-hmm. Which was great, but we'd always played with them as a threesome. But she said, hey, why don't you go off and play with them solo? So I'm like, okay, that's cool. But as you said earlier on, the difference there was she knows them.
She knows them. Absolutely.
And so there was no concern, and it was like,
there's no pushing that boundary. Yeah,
I trust them, and that's fine. But it seemed like a good idea because, hey, I'd be having a good time, and I'd be busy.
Yeah.
But it was weird. I found it really difficult because she's meeting, and we didn't know how to do this. This was all new to me. It was outside of my experience. So I hadn't even met or spoken to any of these guys.
Yeah.
She's going and meeting these guys.
Did you want to? I mean, what kind of relationship, like when you guys talked about doing this, did you guys talk about, I want to talk to the people you're talking to if you get serious?
No, because again, this was all complete. I didn't know how this kind of world works.
Right.
Do I do that? Do I not do that? Do I want to do that?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is going to seem awfully weird for me to go and meet a guy and talk to him about
banging your wife.
This kind of thing. You know, it
Yeah.
was. So I'm like, this kind of feels a bit awkward. Hey, you chat to them. You know, let me know how it's going on. I'll have a look at the profile and I'll see if there are any red flags that come up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, she did a lot of due diligence, and she'd chat to these guys and spoke to them for a while. And the first couple of guys were, I mean, to be fair, top quality guys. These are guys that have been on the scene for a long while.
Mm.
They know how it works. They understand dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
These are swinging world affiliates. You know, they know how it works.
They've been certified by the Swingers Association.
Yeah. These are not guys who are just, you know, as you know, when you came over and visited, we talk about the wanking dead. You know, they're not one of the wanking dead who have just transferred from Tinder and are just showing up to have as many women as they can without understanding any of the concepts. So these guys got it. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. That makes me feel a bit better. But there were a couple of things that happened. So on the first meet she went on, I thought it was going to be a social.
Okay.
But kind of like on the day we were chatting, and I kind of went, so hang on a minute, you're going to meet them. Is this just a social, or are you planning something more than this? And she went, oh, well, you know, we kind of had a chat. And first of all, he'd sort of said, look, what do you want to do? You know, I can take you for a drive in my car, or we can go for a drink. And I went, whoa. He can take you for a drive in his car?
Right.
Like, where's he taking you? Like, we live out in the middle of nowhere.
That would be a little weird for me too.
So I'm going, well, I'm not too sure about this.
Right.
You know, go and meet him for a drink. That would be cool. And then it kind of went from going to meet him for a drink to, well, I was thinking that, you know, we might go and meet for a drink and then we might kind of fool around in his car a bit. I'm like, it's okay. So what do you mean about fooling around in his car a bit? And this is a guy I don't know, haven't met, etc., etc. You haven't even met him yet. So it was like kind of really weird because I'm going, these pages aren't in my book. I haven't got this annex to it yet.
This chapter has not been written.
I'm thinking, right. So, and I don't want to come across as the, whoa, don't do this, don't do that. I want to be in control kind of a guy. Because she's supposed to be spreading her wings and enjoying herself. She doesn't need me stomping all over the place, stinking it up.
That's a tough balance because.
But I'm trying to figure out. But how's this going to make me feel, and what's okay?
Well, it's you trying to be supportive in her evolution in this and her exploration, but also you have to be true to yourself, right? And you have to, and that's a tough. Oh yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. And I am like, you know, if you peel me back like stamped alpha, you know, I've got alpha all over me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I am like the uber protector.
Sure.
So when we're swinging together, it's cool because I'm there.
Because you're there. Absolutely.
But I'm not going to be there.
And you don't even know this person.
Who's protecting you? What if it all goes wrong?
Yeah.
You know? So that was kind of where I was coming from.
It's really cool to hear that it's not about you having sex with somebody else. It's the protective piece.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not that I'm jealous that you're with somebody else. It's I am worried about it. And that to me, it just really emphasizes that it comes from such a genuine connective place.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's really kind of cool to hear.
But it
does bring up all of that conflict that you were talking about.
But where it also comes from, and I think you're this way, but I'm not sure. I think I know I would be. I don't consider myself a controlling person, but in the context of our lifestyle journey, I have had all the control in the sense that I'm the one who kind of drives.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've not by any sort of argument, but I've always owned the gas pedal and the brakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the scenario that you're describing, understand completely the idea that you want to be protective of her, but there's also the element of you are not therefore able to be protective of you.
Yeah.
You know, she's going to go out on her own, and that's the whole purpose of this concept. But, you know, in a normal environment where you guys are swinging and everything, if you yourself get uncomfortable with something for whatever reason, you're right there to say, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah.
And
we've had issues like that in the past, and to the point where I think we spoke to before. We ended up we had an issue where we played with a couple, and she felt really uncomfortable, but didn't know how to approach me. And we discussed it afterwards, and she bought an AirTag.
Yeah.
So basically, with her Apple phone, or the phones are available, I had this tag on a wristband. So if she felt uncomfortable at something I was doing, she had like an Apple Watch as well, and she could just press something on there, and the AirTag on me would vibrate and buzz.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So
kind of a little
if that happened, I knew that she was uncomfortable about something, and I can go off and say, right, go find her. Is everything okay?
Right.
What can we do? Whatever. That's not available in this situation.
Yeah.
Right.
To the point that once we'd kind of ebbed and flowed with how this was going to go, and I the one thing I sort of said, right, okay, you can go meet him, you can play around, but I don't want you to fuck him in the car.
Yeah.
And I said, look, when you get there, by all means, you'll have that introductory chat. Mm-hmm. You'll get a feel for how things are going. I said, once that's happened, make your excuses, go to the bathroom or whatever it is, and just send me a text and say, I'm here, it's fine, everything's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
I said, I'm not going to ask you to check in every 20 minutes.
Right.
But just send me that message.
Little safety check-in.
Okay. Sure.
Anyway, it got to like 10:30 at night, and I've had nothing. I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking, do I get in the car? I know where they are? Do I drive down there?
Yeah.
And anyway, so I then sent a message. Everything okay? Question mark?
Right.
Yeah.
And then I got oh yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, now I'm cool. Now I can relax.
Well, now you can breathe. Sure.
So that there's all those weird little intricacies that come in.
Well, and it's a really important reminder to follow the rules that you set between a couple, right?
Yeah, because she just kind of got distracted.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's easy to forget some of those little things. I'm bad for that because I'll get in the moment of whatever it is I'm doing, and I'll forget to text somebody or text somebody back or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a really important point for people to remember. Like, if you make rules, even if they're little ones, you have to remember them.
Right. Absolutely. Nobody's head fell off, but it did get a little bit wobbly for a while.
Yeah.
So that kind of happened. That was okay. We then had a second arrangement, and I was heading off to go and meet somebody, again, one of our unicorn friends, and I went to go and stay at a hotel because she lives way, way, way away, and we arranged to meet midpoint and stay at a hotel. So again, we thought, we're cool with this. We've done an overnight stay in a hotel. This will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So she then said, right, well, I'm going to go and meet this other guy. And because of where we live, that's in the middle of nowhere, where this guy was 2 hours away. So she arranged to have a hotel, and it was going to be a hotel meet for her. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But as it got closer, I'm kind of thinking, I don't know how I feel about this. I know we've done the hotel meet before. I know I'm staying in a hotel with somebody. But the first time we met, we both knew both of the couples, and we'd played with them previously. The person I was going to stay with, we'd both played with on numerous occasions. Again, this was a guy that neither of us had met.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you're going to stay overnight with him in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know.
That's a big step for somebody.
And I'm going to be X amount of hours the other direction. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, am I being unfair? Because I'm staying in a hotel with somebody.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you I don't want them to stay in a hotel. I'm like, God, how does that work? And in my head, I'm going, but we've never met the guy. And
right.
And
it is different.
There's some pretty distinct differences.
Sure.
There.
I'm thinking, do you know what? You haven't even earned the right to stay in a hotel with her overnight yet. You haven't done the groundwork. You haven't proven yourself. That's kind of like something
phrase.
That, if you met somebody and you got on with them and they treated you with respect and they, all that kind of stuff, and you think, do you know what? You're a good guy. I trust you.
What's the
You
protective
almost
piece?
kind of say we're friends. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, knock yourself out. It's fine. But it's how do you bring that up? How do I say, hey, I'm in a hotel, but I'm not going to let you do that.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of really hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, I get that in the sense, it's interesting you talk about that, and obviously you and I think are similar in just our personalities. I had to kind of do the same thing, when he talked about he needs kind of a win. He wants to have this experience. He needs more of that connection.
Yeah.
And he has been so supportive and so encouraging of me having the best sex of my life and me having all of these experiences. And what kind of person would I be if I said, I can do it, but you can't?
Sure.
Because it's not the same thing in that, like, what he would be doing is obviously different than what I'm doing. Because obviously he needs something different, but I can totally understand grappling in your head with, well, he's letting me do it. Why wouldn't, it would be unfair, right? I've used that phrase. It's unfair of me to say, no, you can't do that when it's not been that other way. You know what I mean? But it is different. And so it's such a hard kind of thing to grapple with. Yeah.
No, it
but I
really
get it.
tore me apart.
Yeah.
Really tore me apart for a while. I'm thinking, am I becoming a handbrake? I've been the one that's been, let's take the brakes off and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I'm things are going good for her, and I'm going, whoa. Well, that's how my perception was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you're having to apply the safety thing, the protection thing.
Yeah.
I want you to have a good time, but I kind of want you to come home. That would be nice.
Do you think, and I don't want to disparage Miss Foxy in any way at all, but do you think she understood your reservations?
Good question. At the time, I think there was parts of her that questioned why I was saying it.
Yeah.
With the, we, as we talk about this all the time. This fun game is all about communication,
right,
and having long, deep, heartfelt conversations. And we've had many, many of those over the last 4, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long it's been. And that's helped, if you can open up and share how you feel and come at it from a place of non-judgment, you can really start to understand how each of you feel about those situations and circumstances. In the heat of the moment, it can be a little bit cloudy.
Yeah.
So it's how you get from one to the other. And at the time, you mentioned about the control. Absolutely, I agree with you on that one. I'd always been the one with the steering wheel and the accelerator and whatever.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, she's got it. I haven't even got my foot near the brake.
Yeah, so you're kind of grappling with the out of control feeling a little bit.
Yeah, and the problem is, in her prior relationship, there were a lot of issues about control in that relationship.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of reveling in the idea that she has that ability to be, you're supportive enough in her doing that.
But the problem is, anything I bring up
that
looks like being controlling,
right.
There's sudden flashing lights going off for her that, wow, I've had this in the past.
Yeah.
I don't like the way this feels, even though it's coming from a different place.
It's apples and oranges, but I can appreciate that it feels the same. Yeah.
So we kind of had a bit of that going on as well. And I was more fearful of, I don't want to come across that way because I know that's been there.
Right.
So I'm almost wanting to let things happen contrary to how I feel, because I don't want her to get upset or view me in a way that I don't want her to.
Gosh, it gets so messy.
So let me ask you this.
So many layers there.
I feel like the way that I would approach that scenario, communication-wise, is to use a lot of I feel statements.
Right.
To say to my other person, like, hey, listen, I feel uncomfortable because I worry about your safety. I feel that, and I think it would be important for me to try to convey to my person that it's not that I'm trying to control how you feel. I'm not trying to control what you are thinking or want to do. I want to share with you how I'm feeling.
Right.
So I guess my question is, how did you approach it?
Exactly like that. That is how I'm fortunately, I'm able to take that step back,
Yeah.
and because the last thing you want to do, and what the big mistake that so many people do is, well, you did this and you
Right.
did that,
Right.
and we said that was going to happen, and you weren't going to allow that, and then it's sudden, the barriers go up, people get defensive. Yeah, but you did that before, and you never said, and you don't address anything.
Well, and there's a big difference between communication and combat.
Oh yes. But
You know-
you've hit the nail on the head. That just, it sounds a little bit kind of tree huggy, but it's so necessary.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I feel this, and I'm not trying to suggest that you have done anything at all, but when this happened, it made me feel this way, and I'm feeling a little. I kind of
Right.
had to say things like, I feel really vulnerable. I
Yeah.
feel quite isolated. I feel, that I'm not involved or whatever.
Yeah.
Be honest about your feelings. Let's be fair, us guys generally are not very good at that for the most part.
Sure.
It
Until
does
you
take,
get into this stuff.
I mean, you talk about communication in the lifestyle, but it also is a lot of feeling feeling safe. That sounds very tree huggy, but like you have to feel safe with your person. You have to feel safe in the
Sure.
sense that I have to be able to say to you, I feel vulnerable. I feel isolated. I am really struggling with how I feel about XYZ. It's you have to be very in tune to yourself,
Yeah.
and very secure in your relationship to share those things.
And you have to be willing to sacrifice whatever it is you want to help that other person get there.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know,
Oh,
and that's,
tough.
we say that like you have to travel at the pace of whoever is the slowest partner.
Yeah.
And that's really what that is. Like you have to be willing to sacrifice whatever it is you might want to
Yeah,
do.
you have to be willing to say, even though I really, really want this, but you are not in the same place as me and I have to stop or slow down or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
This was tricky because it was a huge shift.
Yeah.
Miss Foxy had always been the individual with whom we were having to manage going at the slowest pace.
Yeah. Right.
All of a sudden, overnight,
Yeah.
I'm the snail.
Right.
Yeah.
Suddenly, I'm like, this is weird. I don't know how to deal with this because I've never been in this position before.
Talk about a mind fuck.
So what happened with that hotel meet? Did it happen?
It did. It did happen. Again, nobody's head fell off. Always good. But we managed to get to the point where we said, look, hey, can we set how do you feel about us setting a curfew? You can turn up, you can meet, you can whatever. I said, but I'd really appreciate it if he didn't stay over. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. How do you feel about that? And she's like, okay, well, if that's how it needs to be, that's fine. We'll do it that way. So but the problem was, and this is, you end up adapting these rule sets as you go, because we had that conversation and made agreement, and we'd said, yeah, can we, can he not stay overnight? But I made the mistake of not going, can we set the time as?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because I almost felt, it's like, no, I'm your father. You make sure that you have the by this time.
You better be home by 11.
I kind of didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But, see, this. I'm going to do this. I'm bearing all. This was embarrassing for me. So I'm away at this hotel meet with this great friend of ours, this unicorn. We're having fun, great time, but it got to about midnight, and I've not heard anything from Miss Foxy.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an idea in my head as to what I thought was okay. And of course, I'm just assuming that she'll feel the same way.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it's like, gets to midnight, gets to quarter after, gets to 12:30, and I'm going, whoa, what's going on here now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sat there, I'm worrying now. I'm getting into anxiety state. What's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
Is he pushing things? Is he trying to kick the backside out of this, or, And so fortunately, the lady I'm with is a good friend of ours, and like, she can see I'm stressing a bit. And she's like, look, just everything's fine, And I think it got to the point where it got to 1:45, and again, I'm on the, is everything okay? Question mark.
Right.
Yeah,
Again.
Again.
And she's like, so then I get like a message back a little while after. Oh, it's all fine. He's just I can't remember if he's just leaving or he's just left. I think he's about to leave. Well, even at this point, I'm thinking, so your phone's just beeped, you've got the message, and he's now pulling his pants on. What time was he going to stay till? Now, that wasn't what happened at all.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's just what's going on in my crazy
Absolutely.
head.
Absolutely. No, that makes total sense.
You know, and we talked about it afterwards, and she's like, hey, you know, we went to dinner. He was going to leave. I said, look, why don't you come up to my room and chat, because I'm going to be on my own and I'll feel a bit lonely. So he came up and we chatted, and that was that. You know, and that's kind of exactly. So when she explains this, I'm going, oh God, I feel so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
But I don't think that's, I mean, I think you're being hard on yourself in that, because, you know, that lack of communication.
Oh, your mind just goes nuts.
Absolutely. When we're not communicative with our people, we create that uncertain space for whatever they're afraid of to grow.
Oh, 100%.
And I think that's really a key thing there. I mean, if she had, and again, I don't want to disparage her at all, but like just in this particular example, if she had communicated with you a little bit along the way, hey, we've just had dinner, we're going to go upstairs and have a chat, everything's fine, you probably would have had a very different
I don't
night.
want to disturb you because you're playing. And,
well, right.
You know,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of dynamics there.
These
Absolutely.
are things that we hadn't really thought through. And,
Sure.
And,
Absolutely.
you know, we sat down afterwards and we, you know, as we do, we picked it all apart and asked lots of questions and thought, okay, what do we need to learn from this?
We're going to set a timer at 9 o'clock that we'll have a check-in. We're going to set a timer at 11 o'clock. We're going to have, yeah, right. Balls in.
Hold on, pull out. I have to send a text.
But, you know, off the back of this, we both sat down and discussed and thought, you know what? I don't think either one of us want to do an overnight stay in a hotel again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, that was a big learning.
Yeah, sure.
You know, it worked well the first time. We thought, hey, that was fun. Let's do it again. But that was a very specific
But it's
situation.
a very different,
Well,
it was a different
and
thing.
it was different in the sense that you guys were doing it, even though it was a separate hotel overnight.
It's together.
It was together. You were together at dinner.
Yeah.
You were going to be together at breakfast, and you were all in the same hotel.
Right.
So you all had that
this
proximity.
So this had kind of fallen apart at like midnight, 1 a.m.
Yeah.
We had to wait. I didn't, you know, I had to sleep off the rest of the night, get up, have breakfast, jump in the car, drive back. So we arranged, I think we met up for coffee at I don't know, 11 a.m., midday, somewhere like that. So that was kind of like a long period of time where we weren't together, that we could kind of, you know, give each other a hug and just say, hey, you okay?
Absolutely.
You know, that was the thing that we learned is, you know, having that time apart, we needed to be able to reconnect. I'm not talking reclaim.
Yeah.
But just absolutely.
We had to reconnect.
Come back together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Much sooner.
Mm-hmm. Set eyes on my
You know,
person. Yep.
So, you know, we kind of, we did this crash course learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we figured out, hey, let's do it completely wrong from the get-go. Then we know where all the mistakes are. Let's get them out of the way.
I mean, let's just jump in.
Well, it's hard not to do it wrong the first time.
Well, you can't edit a blank page.
So where does this all leave you? Where are we at in the timeline to
Is
now?
she really getting her nails done?
She's in a hotel somewhere. She could be in a parking lot.
Oh.
I mean, we've had, like I said, several really deep, open, earnest, emotional conversations, because this is real, you know, heavy and deep. And I was really struggling with, you know, her single profile inbox was getting inundated, and she was engaging a lot of chat. And I'm going, do you know what? This is making me feel, again, really isolated and lonely. This is knocking my confidence. You know, she's getting inundated with guys sort of, you know, in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guys, and some of these guys are ripped, they're hung.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I'm thinking, and are you meeting up with, you know, she's chatting to them, and I'm thinking, are you just chatting because of the experience of chatting and it makes you feel good, which goes in line with, you know, what you were saying, that I know that's important to her. But at what point is this going to migrate to a social or a meet? And are you thinking about, I'm suddenly thinking, we did have a bit of a joke. There's this one guy that I kind of called Mr. Olympics. This guy had a cock like a baby's arm holding an apple, and his photos on his profile have got him with women in positions that I just didn't even know were feasible.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, so all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, so this new venture where I'm going to be in Antarctica with the penguins, and you're going to be out with Mr. Olympics and the rest of his kindred spirits, who are going to be, trapeze artists, lion taming, holding her upside down, and all this kind of thing, all the kind of stuff that part of me wants to say, hey, go have fun,
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, you're never going to want to come home again.
Right.
I grappled with this.
And I know that's not true, but that's how it's making me feel.
Oh, absolutely.
I grappled with this early on because our very first MFM, our very first meet with anybody.
Yeah. Very first. Yeah.
Was with a guy who was bigger than me. He was taller than me. He was bigger than me. And he had a much bigger dick than me. And I watched her absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And as much as I was completely excited about the fact that she had a phenomenal time, and I really was, and it was super hot. There was definitely that, I hope she had fun because I'll never be able to give her that.
Well, right. But it opened that whole like, oh no, like, is she going to want this? I can't give this to her. Right. So and
it's hard to watch your person love something that you cannot give them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's difficult.
And we've had that conversation very deeply because up until now, I'm a big, tall dude. I'm ex-American football player, and I do okay up till this point. She's always kind of said, you're the best I've had, you're the biggest I've had.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like being that person.
Yeah.
Right.
All of a sudden, I'm looking at her inbox and thinking, I'm going to be that person for very much longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a level of that threatens. I mean, that's a threatening thing, right? Like,
it is.
Because you have that connection. And it's interesting. We talk, and I guess in the contrast, like, you tell me all the time, like, I'm the best that you've had, and
you are,
and I have the best pussy, and all of the things, and it's so to think about you engaging with all these other women, or having those experiences. I can appreciate I'm not going to be the best for longer. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you're going to engage and have these experiences that potentially could be better.
Right.
And that's well, I can appreciate that would be hard to kind of.
And in the
Miss Foxy has had that as well because, like I say, she's had these bad experiences and seen me with another woman kind of going to town. And you know what? Everybody does. I mean, obviously women do the comparison a lot, but guys do as well, And she was looking at me and saying, well, she's taller than me, she's younger than me, she's got longer legs than me. Why would you not want to be with her?
Yeah.
And so she's like going, look, I get it. This is what I've been going through.
Yeah.
You're now seeing kind of what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And you do have that. And I say the same thing. I said, but I'm kind of having fun. This is kind of naughty, but nobody's better than you are.
Right.
You are what I want. You are everything that I need.
But there's so much more than that physicality.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the relationship that we have, I would pick that every day despite the amazing experience I have over here.
But I think that's where that exact situation is where I'm coming to mentally with all this solo play stuff because, it took me a while, a few days, not really that long, but a few days to get to the point where after that first event, I was really completely good with it. And I was genuinely happy that you had a great experience. Mm-hmm. And I was good with that. Mm-hmm. Like that was enough. I was completely happy with that. And I sort of view it as like, I know what we have. I'm not threatened by anything relationship wise. And so I can be fully happy about you having an outstanding sexual experience, even if it's in ways or a thing that I can't do for you. In fact, in a way, it's almost better, right? Because it's almost it. I would want you to get something extra from that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of doing it if you're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you come to the solo play part,
And the
now,
emotional piece.
now you're bringing in like dates, and now you're bringing in like emotional chats, and you're bringing in like you're bringing
inside
in
jokes.
you're bringing in the relationship
Yeah.
element.
Yeah.
It's not just you just had amazing sex with Mr. Olympia, and that's all well and good, and we're all going to go home now. It's you're going to go on dates with another person, and you're going to connect with them.
Yeah.
You're going to tell them things about your life, things about your day. You're going to start to share those relationshipy things with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for me, that's a gray area where I'm still kind of molding into.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, there were slightly different elements to that for me, because I'm thinking, so she's going to be chatting to these guys, and there's a handful of guys she's been talking to much more than others and more frequently. And it's interesting to see between the guys, there's one guy who's he's very lifestyle. So when they chat, he tells her what he's been getting up to with other people, and wants to know from her what she's been doing with other meets. So they have like this, they share this, hey, what's your lifestyle experience been like since we spoke last? Have you had a great time? This happened, this was really cool. And it stays like that. And then there's like another guy who she'll chat to, and it's like, so, what do you like? And, where do you see things going and whatever. And then there's a third guy, which it's, almost like I said, you get a little bit wary of, and it's like you're talking about the kids and the family and what you've done at work. And so there's like real distinct differences depending on who you're talking to, which is a bit strange. And then there's the fact that you're developing more rapport. And I know you can do this in the lifestyle if you meet somebody more than once, but if they're spending time saying, okay, so what do you really like about me? How do you want things to develop? What can I do next time? Have you got any fantasies? How can we develop? And it's like, I'm suddenly start thinking, right, now you are straying into my territory. I'm the one that gets to know about your fantasies.
Yeah.
I'm the one who gets to know your body the best. So,
Yeah.
you might have a good experience with them because they're very proficient, but they don't know your intricacies in the way I do, that when we have sex together, you're always going to feel more connected to me. Because if they're suddenly going, right, tell me more. How was this? Do you want me to do this differently? If you then meet them 4, 5, 6 times, they're becoming like another boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
They're having that relationship. They're starting to develop those intricacies. And suddenly they might be as proficient as I am because they're getting to know the intricacies that I know.
Right.
And that's where then it could get a bit iffy, because they are 20 years younger than me. And
well, now you're replaceable, right?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you start to wonder, is she thinking about him or me? Not necessarily during sex, but just in general.
Yeah.
Is she at work right now thinking about him? Have they been texting and chatting all day? Like you can see where it starts to get kind of insidious.
Well, right. Like if you're unavailable, right, I'm going to chat with him and not you.
Right.
We had that conversation because, they, and I didn't have a problem with it. I'd given permission. It was like, I was okay.
Yeah.
I know that you like this connection and it's important. So, hey, that's okay. You're letting me know you're doing it. I know when it's happening. And you're telling me bits about what you're talking about. So I should be okay with that, right? But then when you're sat at home together and the TV's on and I'm watching TV but you're talking to some other guy, and that's like every night.
Mm-hmm.
You suddenly start going, hang on, are we losing something here?
Yeah.
I think that's a really important
interesting
point.
question. Are you losing something? Yeah.
We again had to put some restrictions in place. So again, it was a learning process.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge, huge statement, because we've always viewed the lifestyle and our involvement as gaining something.
Mm-hmm.
It's adding to our relationship. It's adding to our overall life. I hadn't really thought about, are we losing something?
Is this taking something away from us?
Yeah.
That is a big statement. And that's and just even thinking about it potentially doing it makes me immediately be like, I don't want to do it.
Right. It makes me want to pull away hard.
Yeah. Because that's not what I want.
So are you guys still engaging in single play, or have you backed out of it?
We have the brakes went on pretty solid. Things moved, the screeching of tires. I mean, basically, I say this tongue in cheek. I shut down all of my single accounts.
Yeah,
like it made any difference.
Whatever, ladies, I'm off the market.
But Miss Foxy, with the conversation had gone, okay, I get what you're saying. I see that. I understand that. And it's like suddenly we've gone in and deleted a load of stuff and turned the account on. And she will turn it on briefly every now and again so she gets some messages come through. We'll have shits and giggles because some of it's hysterical, But it has been, okay, how we are in that process now is how do we incorporate that? What is it that we need to make sure that it is about us? And I mean, we had, so kind of out of the blue this week, I surprised her. I surprised her on Sunday and said, so, you shaved your legs today? Like, yeah, why? Well, we might be having a meet tomorrow. What? Yeah, it's like, yeah, well, I just put something out on the app and see if we get a guy to come over. And, you've been asking about having an MFM for a long time. And, I kind of feel bad for the way things are going. So I thought, hey, let's have an MFM. And that's going to be cool because I'm going to be there. So I'm not going to feel isolated.
Right.
I thought, let's give it a go. This is something new. We haven't done it. She's interested. I'm going to go. Yeah, let's do that then. So we arranged that, and this guy showed up. I mean, it was a bit interesting because it was last minute, but this was the difference because I'd kind of arranged it and it was last minute. She'd not even spoke to the guy. She didn't. Right. She hadn't spoken to him at all. Yeah. And in fact, and this is like even worse. And it's bizarre how things unfold because I'd had a conversation. I tried to organize something for her previously that fell through. But on that occasion, it was going to be proper secret. It was like I was going to tell her that we were going to play, just her and I was going to blindfold her and restrain her on the bed and was going to play with her. But in the background, I was going to invite one of the guys that she'd met, so it wasn't a complete stranger, and invite him over and sneak him in, and then we would both. At one point, she'd feel like four hands.
Yeah.
And go.
I mean, that sounds hot, but I could also appreciate how that would be very jarring.
You would freaking love it.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I think I'd be like, what the fuck?
But that kind of fell through, and I explained to her that I was going to do that, and she went, "Oh wow!" She was like you saying, "Yeah, that probably would have been pretty hot." So I said, right, okay, well, let's do that anyway. So we arranged to have this guy come over, and I went to pick him up because it's real difficult to find where we live. And then got back, restrained and blindfolded her, and we both came in. So even when he showed up, she'd had no chance to speak to him. So it wasn't until we finished playing. It was the first time that she really spoke to him. And we said afterwards, she said, do you know what? It was okay. It was fun. There was nothing wrong with it. The play was cool. She said, but again, there was something missing. I hadn't even spoken to him. There was no build up. We hadn't had that conversation. So it did kind of leave her feeling a little bit cold.
Okay.
Because she hadn't had any interaction in the build up. So it was interesting that, again, it kind of showed from the opposite end of the spectrum why that was important to her.
Sure. And that's how it would be for me. I mean, if a woman just materialized in my bedroom, could I have sex with her? I'm going to go with probably. The 18-year-old in me is like, fuck yeah, I can have sex with her, but the now 40-year-old me is kind of like, well, I don't know. Let's see if she's nice.
There's so much pressure.
I don't know. But it is funny how I've learned
that.
Do I
like her?
Yeah, I've learned that about myself, and I've learned it unfortunately through experiences that didn't really work because that spark wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know, and the difference when it comes to men and women is women mechanically don't actually have to be that into it. Men do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the men have a performance element to this, right?
Sure.
Women don't to that anywhere near the same extent. So that's a big difference.
Mm.
And it was, you know, I mean, taking a slight step back as well, the guy that she met at the hotel afterwards, I mean, that was revelatory for her because, like we'd said earlier on, I'd always been in control. I'd already organized. So this was the first time ever that she had approached a guy off her own back on her own account.
Mm-hmm.
She'd initiated response with him. She had communicated with him, had arranged the meet with him, had turned up and played with him, and came away. And again, her head hadn't fallen off. And she was like, I did that all on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, you know, this was
From start to
a
finish.
lot of baggage that she brought from a previous relationship, being told you can't do anything. And then suddenly, you know, understandably allowing me with the experience and knowledge that I had. But this was like the first time that she kind of felt like, I'm capable of doing this. You know, nobody's done this other than through what I've put into it.
Right.
This was kind of like, it really was. This was like a cannon exploding kind of a moment for her. It changed everything in such a positive, confident way. She came off that feeling amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what made it even harder for me to communicate how I was struggling.
Right.
She's
Your
like,
person your person's having this amazing, liberating, empowering experience, and you're about to shit all over it, right? Like, I appreciate how you wouldn't want to do that. Absolutely.
That was really kind of weird. And I'm going like, oh man, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to a question I was wondering about. So we are a hot wife couple in that if Mrs. Snow were to go out with a guy on a date and play and do all those things, unlike the two of you, I would be beside myself, distracted, wondering what's going on. What are they doing? What is she doing? What's he doing? What's everybody wearing? Have they done anything? Where are they now? What are they doing? You know, like my mental track would just be on fire with all that going on. And so with that in mind, I know what I get out of it. You know, if she goes out and has that experience with somebody else and comes home, first of all, the reconnecting session is going to be unbelievable, but I'm definitely getting something out of the whole thing, even though I'm not there and not part of it at that time.
Yeah.
You guys don't have that same kink, I guess, for lack of a better word. So my question to you is, not having a personal gain, what are you getting out of her doing this?
Massive question, and something that we really had to analyze and ask ourselves, because up until this point, kind of when asked similar, we kind of said, what do you get out of this? It's like, well, we see this as a gift that we give one another.
Yeah.
Which is great when you're playing as a couple, because we're both getting a gift.
Yeah.
We kind of thought that if we did it this way, it's just a different way of doing the gift, because, hey, she gets to go off and play with the guy, and then on, you know, next week I get to go off and play with a woman. But that kind of fell apart when there were no women there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, you know, how does this work? You know, and I'm thinking, well, you've had like X number of bad meets where you haven't got to enjoy yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the guy has kind of let everything down. Initially I've had a good time until she's told me what's happened, and then all of a sudden I haven't had a good time.
Yeah.
Physically,
I totally get that.
I've had more out of it.
I totally get that. Yeah.
But then as soon as I know that she's had a bad experience, I'm like, Well, I didn't enjoy that then.
Well, right. It takes a little bit away from our experience, from my experience, right? So I totally get that.
And that sounds weird because she's going like, yeah, right, but you got fucked. I didn't.
Yeah, like you're fine. But I think I totally understand that because I think I think about in general the amount of confidence I've gotten from this entire lifestyle. And I think about just the amazing impact it has had on my sexuality, my sexual experience, but also just, I think in general, it has made me more of a confident person overall.
Yeah.
And the fact that you and I have had this experience together and I have gotten that out of it and you have not gotten that out of it is hard to hear.
Yeah.
So I totally understand, like, there's kind of this, oh, it's not giving you the same thing it's giving me. And that does like that. So,
then guilt.
So I think then the guilt of it, but then I think, so kind of fast forwarding to the question you asked him, what am I getting out of it? I'm getting out of it that you are able to experience a fraction of what I've already experienced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's such a weird thing, but
for us was all of a sudden I'm now thinking, right, well, you had X number of bad experiences. Does that mean I now have to kind of sit on my hands and allow you to go off and play with X number of guys to kind of reset the balance?
To even the score.
So we had this conversation about on our last episode, and the subject of fairness came up.
Yeah.
And this is really, really, really super important for me. Okay. She made the statement, well, it's not really fair that I have gotten to do these things with these people and you haven't. And I push back on that very, very hard. And here's why. I think, for one thing, in any relationship, we shouldn't keep score.
Correct.
But more importantly, this idea of fairness, just because I'm okay with something does not mean that you have some obligation to be reciprocally okay with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with you doing all of these things, but you're an entirely different person. I mean, you don't have to be okay with all the same stuff in the other direction. The only fairness element that I ask for is that I ask that you like if I ask for something, I ask that you honestly consider it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that. And I mean, Miss Foxy kind of said to me that, okay, so in the past, stuff just happened not to work out. It wasn't planned. It just kind of happened. And she basically kind of looked at me and said, like, are you stupid? It's like, I don't want you to go off and purposefully do something that is harmful to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In order to try and make things better for something that kind of couldn't be helped.
Right.
There's a difference between something happening and you purposefully going out there and chasing it. It was like, okay,
So let me ask you this. She went out and she had her own experience start to finish. And that was a revolutionary experience for her.
Right.
Did that scratch an itch and kind of satisfy that? Or do you feel like that opened a box and now she would like to pursue more of that?
Certainly initially, massively the second. It was like, wow, this is cool. This is great. This could work. I'm actually enjoying this.
Mm-hmm.
And she's, do you know what? This is a weird thing. She said to me, for years that we've been talking about this with my previous experience, I've always kind of said to her, look, do you know what? Swinging is completely different. Sex is just sex. It's kind of like it's a hobby, a pastime, a sport. Yeah. You go and do it. It's good fun. It has nothing to do with our relationship.
Right.
And she's, for a long period of time, struggled with that idea and has gradually got to the point, where she can feel more comfortable about it. She's confident in herself. And she went off and did these things. And then she suddenly went, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I can go off and have sex with these guys and I don't have to worry about it. I'm just doing it for fun.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm going,
shit.
Yeah, it doesn't make me feel very good. We're getting back to that kind of...
I guess be careful what you wish for, right? Like,
the emotions and the relationship kind of thing suddenly didn't feel like the just hooking up and doing it.
Yeah.
So there has been a massive learning curve for me, but I'm, unfortunately, just at the point, and I know that in her head, she's like, yeah, I can just go out, have fun with these guys, come home, and everything's going to be fabulous. And it's the first time ever I've got it, and suddenly I'm the one having emotional issues about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, right, well, I'm not there to protect you if something goes wrong. I trust her implicitly, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always have, always will do. I don't trust the other guys.
Well, if you don't know them, how can
and that's
you?
probably a bit unfair.
Yeah.
A lot of them are great and they're just there for a good time as well. But
you don't know that.
Some of them, there are guys out there who are boundary pushers.
Yeah.
There are guys
absolutely.
out there who kind of want, they talk the talk, but it's all about, what can I get out of it? And they get some hot woman who's all up for it, and you might discuss about what your boundaries are, but they might kind of push things a little bit, and in the spur of the moment, you can go with something, and it's so hard to claw something back after it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I'm suddenly like going, I'm not sure whether this is quite as straightforward as, before we were both there. We were meeting couples. We knew who they were. They were the same age. They were same experience. You're suddenly, as we quite often say, fishing in a different pond.
Yeah.
It's a whole different dynamic,
mm-hmm.
And I think more often than not, and I kind of say to him, I don't know whether you'll agree with me here. Like for me as a guy, if I go with another woman, I mean, it's not clinical. It's not a to-do list. I don't go like, number one, do this, number two. But usually my performance is relatively similar. I know what I'm going to do. It's like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's fairly kind of, it's fun because it's with different people and it might feel a bit different and it might be in a different whatever. But I know that it's just going to be this, this, and this, for example.
Yeah.
She's now meeting a bunch of guys who, like you say, are like Mr. Olympics or Mr. Circus or, and these are guys who are going to do stuff that I'm never going to do with any of the women because, 99% of the time, the women want to be led. They kind of want to be fucked or they want stuff to happen. Not very often you've got a woman who's going to suddenly perform circus tricks on you. Things aren't going to be suddenly different for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying every meet is identical, but there's a lot of similarity. You kind of know what you're going to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm kind of saying, you're not, I'm not sure what you're going to end up in a particular situation or scenario. And I get that you're going into it thinking this, and this will happen, but it might not. And I don't know, and you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I kind of trust her to kind of go, whoa, hang on a second, that's not happening. There are edges that get a bit blurry.
The decisions that you make with your clothes off, right, versus the decisions that you make with your clothes on, right?
Well, sure. And the fact of the matter is, there is risk to all of this.
Yeah.
There's emotional risk, there's physical risk, there's always going to be an unknown factor. It's always going to be that.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of wrap all this up, as far as where we're at now, what does the future look like from here?
I think in all honesty, we are probably going to back away from solo play. We're not going to say it's not been put in the tin and the lid being put on, but it's just going to be another club in the golf bag.
Yeah.
But it's probably not going to be the one that we use very often.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. We're having to look at, we did this in order to try and ameliorate a problem that we'd encountered elsewhere. I think we need to find a new way of dealing with that problem in how we communicate and how we communicate with other couples.
Yeah.
And on special occasions, we might go, that random chance where I stumble across a lady, or it might be, for example, we might go to a club and I might get to play with a hot wife couple, or I might bump into a solo lady. and I get the opportunity to play solo there. And whilst, like you said, we don't see this as tit for tat or counting, but it might be that she's not going to feel as bad about me doing that if she knows she's going to get an opportunity to go and meet the guy to play solo. So it's like an extra. It's like the cherry on the cake. You know, we'll be the odd one or two. We're going to focus on the cake a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I love cake.
Cake is delicious. I'm not gonna lie. And special occasion, Taint Thursday, man. You never know what happens.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can definitely, part of all of that, we call it the stretch, right? Because there are times where you stretch a little. You kind of go out in the world a little and say, I'm going